Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
Hey, don't forget my pimento cheese. Of course.
It's okay, I'll take it from here.
Hey, you forgot your receipt.
For the love of palmetto cheese.
Good evening and welcome to Primetime Sports. And what a wild week it has been since the last time we were with you. Remember that? That was last Tuesday. And we're going to talk about this because the obvious news of the week and of the day is the LSU National Championship. Yes, they won their 7th national title, and they haven't won one in 14 years. This is number 7. They won one in 91, 93, 96, 97, and 2000. That was 5 in a 9-year stretch. And then they won again in 2009. But it's the first time in 14 years, and they did it with another coach, Jay Johnson. So that's the 3rd LSU head coach that's won a title. And he did it in only his 2nd season. So he did it faster than any other LSU coach. So congratulations to him. That's Coach Maneri. He's hugging there. Last week we showed you a lot of shots of Coach Burtman, who had been up there as well. So congratulations. And there's your guy, Dylan Cruz, who was the Golden Spikes Award winner. That means the #1 player in the country. He won that award this past weekend. And there was only 3 finalists. Paul Skeens, the other guy, the pitcher, he was the other one. In Florida's Langford, who is a phenomenal player. And we'll get to that in a second because I just want to kind of give you a rundown of how this whole thing went. Let's take you back. Let's take you all the way back to June 2nd. Remember that? Friday, June 2nd. That's when they played Tulane. That just seems like about a year ago. That's right, the Tulane-LSU matchup there. Tulane had just come off winning their conference, and they were one of the 4 teams in the LSU Regional, and Tulane played them tight, man. It was a tight game for a while. LSU ended up winning 7-2. They got those 2 runs off Skeens, who doesn't give up runs very often. Let me just go ahead and say that. He had a 1.69 ERA this season. Certainly the greatest pitcher. Might be the #1 pick in the upcoming draft in a week, but Tulane played them well. That was so long ago, right? Well, then they played Oregon State. They had to win, 2 more games in that regional, and they beat Oregon State twice. You remember Oregon State was 56-4 about in 2017, and LSU beat them twice, and that was one of the most remarkable things that's ever happened. Well, this wasn't the same kind of Oregon State team. They won those, so they got to the Super Regional the following weekend. That's just when you have to win 2 out of 3 against 1 team. That's when there's only 16 teams left. Well, they played Kentucky, and Kentucky was hot, man. Kentucky had been doing well at the end of the season, and they played LSU fairly tough, not great, but LSU won 2 in a row. They didn't even need a 3rd game. So then they went back to Omaha for the 19th time in literally less than 40 years. A pretty remarkable number. I think it was 19 in 38 years or something like that. It's amazing how much that many times they've been to Omaha, and they've won 6 times before, but this is always tough because you get there, you got to play against 7 other teams, double elimination. So this is how it went. You remember they opened up with Tennessee, man. Tennessee had some big wins down the stretch. Tennessee had some miracle wins over Clemson just to get to where they were. Extra innings, the game was over, they were out, but they had a replay call and it went their favor. So the game went into extras and they won, but Tennessee was going to be tough. LSU beat them 6-3 that game. Then they had the Monday game. We all remember that. That's the last game we reported on in this show. That's when they went and they lost to Wake Forest 3-2 and that crazy win lost when heartbreaker. That means they had the long route. They had to beat Tennessee again 5-0. They had to beat Wake twice. Well, the first one was 5-2, but then they had the great pitching matchup. The 2 best pitchers, Skeens there, Rhett Lauder. This was the game, and they ended up winning 2-0 in the 11th inning. Most epic game I've ever seen. And then they had a day off Saturday. You had another epic game, 11-inning game against Florida, 2 out of 3 for the finals. They won that one 4-3 on a home run by Kay Beloso. Also, you had Sunday where they got trounced 24-4. Everybody thought they were demoralized. Not me. I said they're going to take this one. They came back Monday and just returned the favor 18-4. Congratulations, LSU. You are the national champions. Hey, by the way, the Pelicans, they had a little news. They drafted Angel Reese's cousin. That's right, Angel Reese, a superstar LSU player. There's his cousin, her cousin. His name is Jordan Hawkins. He is the 14th pick of the draft. National champion UConn. They came out of nowhere, 4 seed winning it all. He's a 6'5 shooter, and they got him to space the floor. He's going to be teamed up with C.J. McCollum, Jose Alvarado, Trey Murphy, and Kyra Lewis in the backcourt. But it's all going to be up to B.I. and Zion if this team's going to be successful. We have a great show for you. We have Tulane track star, and I cannot wait. Kristen O'Hanley. This world is phenomenal. And Frank Duffy, we're going back to him because he's going to tell us all about Rocco's and everything. He was there in Omaha for 16 days, and he's going to be coming up next right here. I cannot wait for that one on Primetime Sports.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports, and like we said in the open, this is going to be a mostly LSU baseball show, and why not? They just won the national championship, but we're also going to have one of Tulane's greatest track athletes in the history of their program. Kristen O'Hanley is going to join us next, but we had to go back to our man, Frank the Tank Duffy. That's right, Frank Duffy. You remember him 2 weeks ago? We got him when before Omaha had just started. He was already there on Monday night. We had him on Tuesday. You know, he was getting ready, pre-gaming, getting ready for the first LSU game, which was that following Saturday. Then obviously they played 8 games in Omaha, going 6-2 there. They had gone 5-0 before Omaha in the NCAA tournament, and then they won their 7th national championship last night. We're going to go back to Frank. He is not in front of the RV like he was last time. He's licking his wounds a little bit. He's in the car, but still in Omaha. He's still hanging out there. They're going to drive back either tonight or tomorrow, but he has been there for 16 days now. That's 16 days straight. My man Frank's going there. So Frank, how you doing, my friend? Are you still holding up?
That was a fun night last night. That's all I'm going to say, Scotty. I am playing hurt this morning.
You're playing hurt. Well, we gave you this Tommy Tanks White, and there's Frank the Tank Duffy. Because I got to tell you, man, 16 days in Omaha. I've been getting updates just about every day from you. It's been unbelievable. Kind of take us through the fun part of Omaha. We're going to talk about the fun now and the baseball later. Let's talk about the fun. Give us an overview of what it was like that first week and kind of talk through it. Say how it went. You know, the Rocco's thing. We all know about the Jello shot thing. And the LSU fan base showing up like crazy. It looked like it was an LSU home crowd last night. Can I give us some of the flavor real quick, Frank?
It was Mardi Gras for 16 days, Scott. It literally was like a Mardi Gras season. You know, I'll tell you, when we pulled into town, these people couldn't have been nicer. They couldn't have been more friendly. The very first place we went to grab a bite to eat, they gave us a standing ovation because we had LSU stuff on. They love us here.
A standing O? A standing O. That's
standing O. Came in, there was about 30 people in the bar. It was a cool little hamburger place called Dinkers downtown. Walked in. Now, again, before anybody got there, we got there that Monday. So we were there really early. But when they saw us, we were probably the first LSU people they saw. They welcomed us home is exactly the words that they used. And it's been that way the whole week. It's been fun. It's been a grind. I feel like the players and the coaches and the families, we were every day as they were leaving the Hilton, which was the official hotel, the team hotel.
Yeah.
We were sending up players, bringing them back in. So fans, I'm telling you, Scott, it felt like we went through that process as well. And the fun of going out and having everything kind of located in that small area downtown was phenomenal. I used the analogy. I was sitting next to Mark Alvord, our fellow fraternity brother, yesterday as the Tigers won. And I told him, I said, I've been at all the national championship games.
Yeah.
In the Superdome. I was there for all of them, the 3 that we won. And I said, the thing that I was amazed by the most was in a 3-hour game, it's incredibly exciting. You're exhilarating. You leave the dome. But this was 14 long days of being here. It was a long slog. So a feeling of accomplishment being here and going through that game as a fan was incredible. And look, the Rocco's thing was off the chart. I was standing there when Morris Bart walked in yesterday. We also had the folks over at our good friends at Gordon McKernan had come in. You had all these people coming in and being part of this event. It was just phenomenal. As an LSU fan, this was probably the greatest experience as a fan I've ever had.
Well, the previous record, I know it's not an old challenge. They've only been doing it for about 5 years or 6. But the fact is that the previous record was 18,777. And they got 68,000 plus is what I heard at the end. So not only did they double it, not only did they triple it, they almost quadrupled it. And let me go ahead and say this. That is 50,000 more than the previous record. I think LSU fans say don't take kids to an adult event because this is what we do, and we do it professionally.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, don't mix amateurs with professionals. And by the way, it wasn't they, it was we.
It was we. Well, let me go ahead and say this. We give Jell-O shots to our children to tease them a little bit, to get them ready. I mean, this is what we do. These adults are trying to do stuff we did at 3 and 4 years old, some even in the crib. I mean, it's not fair for everybody else. I'm sorry.
It's all right, buddy, but hey, that's how we roll, right?
Right.
That's how we roll.
It's Louisiana. Hey, how long ago does that first Tennessee game feel? Like back Saturday, a week ago Saturday, 10 days ago. That's got to feel like it's been a long time.
It's kind of funny. I went to all 8 games, 6 wins, 2 losses, and they're starting to kind of run together.
Yeah.
And it's only because we've been here so long and we've physically gone through it with them.
Right.
And look, on Saturday, I texted you, I texted all my buddies, I said, we literally hit a wall on Saturday. It was like running a marathon, right?
Right.
So it was like mile 21 was Saturday. Fans felt it. Players felt it. That's why they were making errors. They were kicking the ball around. We were exhausted. The families were exhausted. The families of these kids, again, leaving the hotel, coming back, you could see their faces. I mean, we lived and died on every pitch. And I almost made the incredible analogy because I was in Tuscaloosa with 9-6 when we beat Alabama in football.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I remember sitting in Bryant Denny, and every play was pivotal.
Yeah.
Every punt was pivotal. Well, that's what it was like here. And look, I'm a Braves fan. I've been to World Series. I've probably been to 25 World Series games in my life as a Braves fan. Nothing was the experience in that stadium like this was.
How about that Thursday night game? Let's just talk about that. That's the one I think one for the ages. I want to ask you, because I was riveted, and I used the same example you just did, the 9-6 Alabama LSU win, when people tried to tell me that was boring. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Just because there's no touchdowns, that meant every play meant something. Every play, you just had that tension. And that's what I felt because, there was only 5 field goals in that entire LSU-Alabama game back in 2011. This one, I felt every pitch was so important, man. Location and where he put it. A 0-0 game all the way to the 11th inning. Talk about what that game was like to be inside that stadium.
Well, every game that I was at, with the exception of one, I had either outfield seats or I was down the line. That game I was behind home plate.
Oh, my goodness.
That I could have been, I was literally 10 rows up, right behind the dish. And every pitch literally was strategically placed. And look, you got to tip your cap to Wake. Those kids played hard. That pitcher, the starting pitcher.
Rhett Lauder, and Paul Skeens, amazing.
Incredible. And to watch Skeens, knowing what was on the line, when he came out in that first inning, he was throwing BBs. And I was like, holy mackerel. And I even told the guy next to me, I said, listen, I think this might be a display of defense and pitching like the likes we've probably never seen at LSU. Fast forward to the 11th inning, and it's still 0-0. And again, every pitch is pivotal. And me being the old baseball guy from my Carrollton Boosters days from 1,000 years ago, I'm screaming and hollering, lay down the bunt. Can Tommy possibly bunt? We got to get him a second. And about 5 seconds later, I heard the crack of the bat. And I'm telling you, the bing, and when it went, I knew it was out just from the sound of it.
Yeah.
It was an absolute bomb. But with that, don't get me wrong, the home run was incredible, and most people will remember that. What I will remember is the pitching performance of all the pitchers that came in, including our relief pitchers. On that night, that was the most incredible display of college pitching, because both those guys will be pitching on Major League Baseball teams for the big club, I'll guarantee you, next year. Both of them.
Well, Frank, I mean, since we're talking about that game, I want to continue because it's so rare that you have such a buildup that lives completely up to the buildup and then some, because everyone was saying that could be the best pitching matchup in the history of the College World Series and perhaps college baseball. Let's talk about this, because you got a guy with a 1.6 ERA. You got the other guy at 15-0 with a 2-point-something. Right. Both guys will be top 10 picks. One could be number one. And then you have them both, the only two teams in the country that have been number one at all this season. Right. And LSU had the first 12 weeks. They got the last 5 or so, 6, whatever it was. But the fact is how could it get any better than that? And then it lives up to it exactly. No runs allowed. Guys throwing BB, strikeout after strikeout. Great defense. Trey Morgan, there's Rhett Lauder right there. I got to give it up for both those guys, because that's a game that neither team deserved to lose. And you never really remember the loser in the long run. Nobody in 10 years is going to remember who LSU beat. They might remember that one because that was so big. But they won't remember the 24-4 game, I promise you, because we don't remember 28-2. Alabama beat LSU in '97 in baseball.
And we came right back.
And came right back and beat them for the title. Nobody remembers that. I had to remind everybody 25 years later.
I was telling the Florida guys to row down for me. I said, I hope y'all score 2,000 runs.
I said the same thing. Score.
Yeah, that's right.
It's only going to make us upset. I say, right. Keep on scoring.
Said that. When I got back home last night, she said, after the game, she goes, the Tigers were mad.
Yeah.
They played bad. And so, of course, she could see more. She was actually at the RV because the sun was just too rough for her on her fair skin out there. So she stayed and watched most of the games in the RV. But when I got home, she goes, those Tigers were angry, and they took it out on the Gators. And I was like, I love the way she put that just from watching it on TV. You know, we don't see all the faces and the little things when you're in the stands. I would have traded the experience for anything. But watching it at home, you do get all those extras that you don't really catch.
So, Frank, I want to take you through something real quick, because there's 3 games that I think were legitimate nights, and now we're going back to the celebration party kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The Thursday night win, just the epicness of it, but you still have the championship series to go, but you have a day off, so there's a day off finally, the only one you had for like the last 5-6 days, and then you had the Saturday night extra inning win. It's a Saturday night, right? Which pretty much every night for LSU fans was a Saturday night, but it's really Saturday in Omaha, so they're getting that crowd even going out. And you also had the fact that you won an extra inning game on a home run basically again, and then you had the fact that, hey, we have a buffer. We can lose tomorrow and still win Monday. So that's the second. Right. That's the second celebration night, and then the third one would be obviously when LSU wins their first national championship in 14 years. In a major sport. I mean, I'm not a major sport. They won football 19, but 14 years in baseball. So which of those 3 nights stands out the most?
Yeah, well, I will tell you, you're going to think this is shocking. It's that first win against Florida on Saturday night, because for the first time in this World Series, we had the upper hand and they were having to play catch up. That was pivotal, getting that first win in. And we had a little breathing room. We played poorly on Sunday, but like I said, I think a lot of that was due to the fact that there was just incredible fatigue. But knowing that we had that opportunity, Monday was in our back pocket no matter what, was a huge thing. Saturday night was wild here. I mean, wild. And the Rocco's thing, look, they ran out of shots last night at Rocco's. Done completely. I don't think there's any more Jell-O to be found in Omaha. Ran out at about, I guess, around
Omaha. There's no Jell-O left in Nebraska, Iowa, and every surrounding state. It's gone.
Yes. So it was that night. Don't get me wrong. The Wake win was great. Coming out with the Wake people, I literally was patting them on the back. I was telling them what a great team. I said, it's a shame somebody had to lose this. Really, there should have been 3 teams in the finals. Wake was the other one. But they were so classy. They were such good fans. Scott, I think I sent you the video, maybe almost 45 minutes after the game was over. The Wake team was still out on the field, and their fans had not moved from the stands. They were in the stands waiting for that Wake team to come off. I was so impressed. I said, what a valiant foe that we vanquished on probably one of the most memorable college baseball games, which will ever go down in history. No doubt in my mind that will be a classic. How they say the old instant classics. That will be a classic for years and years to come. And I will tell you, the party last night, there was just euphoria, and you saw it. I sent the video of when it happened. I was at, again, all 3 national championships that we won in the Superdome. Was at that other one that Alabama should have never been in, but don't get me started.
I was at all 4 of those as well.
Yeah, and let me tell you, the win last night, the excitement matched the football excitement, but because it took 14 days, 2 long weeks of being here to accomplish it, that's what made it extra special.
Would you call it the Death March of Bataan? It's like a death march. Except it was a victory march.
World War II veterans who I love and I've done on a flight. I would never, disparage y'all. But I'll tell you, it was like Bataan, these 2 weeks, making it through this. Not only emotionally, because you're in with the Tigers and it's every pitch is crucial. And after from game 2 on, we were scrambling. We were in elimination games every time. But it was the physical thing of being there and look, doing the shots and drinking the beer. It's like we all were in it. Everybody had their workout that they had to do.
By the way, a Jell-O shot is like 2 drinks, but for those that don't know, they put so much alcohol in those things, it's literally the equivalent of at least a couple drinks. So when you're downing 68,000 of them, that's a lot of alcohol. So it's not like that it's a Jell-O shot. Like, let's just drink some Jell-O. No. It's a lot harder on your body than regular Jell-O. Frank,
and you and I were in the bar business for many years.
Many years.
That is the greatest marketing thing I've ever heard of.
Dude, he's a household name around the country. Rocco. That picture you have is with Rocco, right? Is that it? In front of Rocco's? Who is that?
I don't see the picture up. Which one is it?
It's right, this one right here. It's in front of Rocco. Oh, that's Ben McDonald. I just realized that's Ben. Ben, LSU legend Ben McDonald at Rocco's. Okay, I just realized that's who it was. Hey, we're going to come back. I was going to have LSU legend Mason Katz. He didn't win a title, but he got to the title game back when TD America, now Schwab Field, opened. So, Frank, we're not going to keep you long, but you mind if I come back to you later in the show and we're just going to run through the whole NCAA tournament real quick and talk baseball?
That'd be awesome, buddy.
All right, we're going to come back. Hey, but next, we're going to switch it up. Hey, Green Wave fans, I got you covered too. We got one of your greatest athletes in the history of your athletic program, certainly in your track program, and she is coming up next. Kristen McHanley, I cannot wait. Oh, Hanley, excuse me. I am sorry. Oh, Hanley. And I cannot wait for her coming up right here on Primetime Sports.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my, oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll at Mid-City
The recent devastation from hurricanes have caused insurance companies to significantly raise their rates. However, most of them are offering large discounts if you install a fortified roof system, which uses larger nails and has a much stronger, resilient base underneath the shingles. The fortified roof professionals at Skyline Contractors can install these new roofing systems for you. More information is available at 504-355-6845 or at skylinecontractors.us. Max Durbus Realtors has been providing commercial and industrial real estate services to its clients for nearly 100 years. Since 1934, Max Durbus has been locally owned and operated throughout the greater New Orleans area, including the North Shore, Hammond, and even the Mississippi Gulf Coast and beyond. We focus on your commercial real estate needs so you don't have to. More information is available at 504-733-4555.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. We're going to give Frank a little second to rest. You can tell he's had a big night after that national championship. The man has been there for 16 days, literally. And he didn't even just go to just LSU games. They had 8 of those. He went to some of the other games. He went to the UVA, Stanford game, or Tennessee game, and he went to a bunch of them. So he is tired. So we're going to give him a break and talk more about the actual games and how LSU got there. But first, hey, I've been looking forward to this one for a minute. We had Adrian Myers, the head track coach at Tulane. He came on about a month and a half ago, and I remember him with such great energy. And I remember this guy had, he said he took over Tulane after leaving Northern Illinois on a team that had been near the bottom at some points, and then they took him to strides they hadn't been in quite a while. In some places they've never been. But one of the reasons why is the person I have sitting next to me. He was talking about her that day. I remember talking about, they had just gotten back from their conference tournament and where Kristen O'Hanley did so well. And we're going to talk to her about not just that, but what she's done in every other event going forward to the Nationals. And she's actually just finished competing not long ago. She was the last Tulane athlete still going in the track, and rightfully so. So she competes in the heptathlon, the pentathlon, which I just learned today, that's indoor. Heptathlon's outdoor. But all those events inside, we're going to get to that in a second. But here she is, first time on Primetime Sports. I hope it's her last. But welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Really good. How about you?
Fantastic. The first time on the show, we love to talk about the person before we do, like where you're from, how you got here, all that. So we have a lot of athletes that are from Louisiana, that some of them go away and do great things, some of them stay here and do great things. But we also have a lot of coaches, athletes, musicians that aren't from here, and you fit in that category, have come here and done some phenomenal things. So let's get there. Where were you born, first of all, and where did you grow up?
Yeah, so I was born in Calgary, Alberta in Canada.
You're Canadian, okay,
yep,
cool.
Canadian at heart, but grew up in America, actually. I grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Right.
And then after I graduated high school, I went to Portland State University up in Oregon.
Right.
And then after my undergrad, I finally made my way down to New Orleans and wound up at Tulane.
We're going to get to that because I can't wait. But what's the biggest misconception that people from the mainland have about people that grew up in Hawaii? What's the first thing that people think that's absolutely not true?
Ooh, that's a hard one. A lot of people ask me if I live next to the volcanoes.
Right, that's one.
If I have to dodge lava.
Right.
Anything along those lines. If I surf every day.
Surf every day is another. Do y'all do the limbo all day long, or do you wear the skirts?
The grass skirts.
The grass skirts. That's all misconception, right?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, beach every day, for sure, true. Other than that, I live next to an extinct volcano, so can't say it's all a lie, but pretty much.
No lava dodging.
No lava dodging, unfortunately. It'd be great for training, though.
So you went to Oregon, the state of Oregon. I know the University of Oregon is where Phil Knight, the Nike, founder. Everybody saw Air, but I've been to where the Beaverton, where the old Nike thing is.
Yep.
When I was doing NBA games, that's where they'd stop. All the Nike players would stop and get their free shoes. So I know that's a big track state. I mean, I just remember it. Is it still the same way? You went to Portland State, and I got to think that that's part of the whole thing.
Yeah, that definitely was. In high school, that was my dream to go to Oregon. And honestly, I think I had a lot of improving to do before I could realize that dream fresh out of high school. And honestly, going to Portland State was a great experience. I actually didn't do the heptathlon in high school. I just did a couple running events. So Portland State was the place that really got me started doing the heptathlon and really got my foundation there. Sure. But it definitely just being around a community of runners and people who are really into Nike and athletics and track in general was such a great experience, especially as I started my collegiate career.
Well, can I say you're wearing a much nicer shade of green now than the Oregon shade? Because this is like, you can wear this out. The Oregon shade's a little bright, so I think you got the better green with Tulane.
Exactly. I completely agree.
We got to get these kicks on TV. Pick this up. These shoes right here, that's a good shade of green right there. I got to talk to Adrian. I want a pair of those. Those are tight. I like them. So let's talk about being in New Orleans and coming here. Let's first talk about, did you know much about New Orleans, and how did you get to Tulane? Who recruited you here, and when did you get here, and why?
Yeah, definitely. So we actually had a different coaching staff at the time that I was getting recruited. So Chris Johnson, my old coach, actually recruited me during COVID. So we didn't have officials, unfortunately, and I couldn't pick New Orleans out on a map. I don't even quite know if I could say that it was in Louisiana, but I actually called my dad and I was like, the school, Tulane's recruiting me, but I don't know much about it. And he's like, oh yeah, I've seen their football games. Like, I think it's a pretty good school. And honestly, we went from there.
That's pretty cool. Because I guarantee you, if you put Hawaii out here, 0 out of 15 people watching, I mean, we're going to have more than that, just a ratio. Let's say 1 out of 25 would not be able to pick exactly where Honolulu was on that Hawaiian map, which you do immediately, right? Mm-hmm. So we get it. I mean, it's fair. I mean, it's not like you're hearing about New Orleans except for maybe Bourbon Street any other time.
Exactly.
But now when you got to New Orleans in January of 21, which is now you're almost a native, 2.5 years. What was your first impression? And, we're still in a pandemic, so it's not like the real New Orleans. And B, what is your impression now?
Yeah, so when I first got to New Orleans, I remember landing in the plane. It was probably 10 a.m., so sunny out. First of all, I saw the Mississippi. I did think I was allowed to swim in that. People corrected that a lot later.
Well, most rivers you can.
Yeah, exactly.
People that grew up here just know no rivers.
Yeah, I never knew a body of water I couldn't swim in. So, and then also landing, and I could pretty much see clean across the state. That was a shock.
No mountains?
Yeah, I clearly didn't take a good geography course on New Orleans, but no mountains, no swimming rivers. So it was a shock for me at first.
We may not have volcanoes, but we do have, well, I think at Lucy's they have a drink called the thing in Volcano. But we do have a thing called Monkey Hill that we all thought was a mountain growing up. It was just a big old, kind of like dirt hill, and it was like, when you don't have mountains and that's the first thing you see. It was about 40 feet high, and we run up there and take our bikes up and come down. So you're used to mountains everywhere. You've been on the West Coast, you've been in Hawaii. What was that like, Pam, Flatland? Because it has to be easier to run.
Oh, definitely easier to run. Yeah, but luckily I'm used to the heat from Hawaii. The humidity was pretty comparable, but yeah, coming here, and I went to the graveyards the first day just to explore them, and I was probably like 3 miles away, and I decided to run back to my apartment, and I was like, great. Biking, running, you can run so easily, but humidity definitely gets to you when you try to run out here, especially the heat.
Well, what are the graveyards like?
They were interesting. I think that's like the only thing I did know about New Orleans was that they had these big graveyards with these really cool tombs. So that was something I wanted to check out right away. Just so different to me.
Yeah,
the architecture here in general is just so different, so unique.
Yeah, I remember because I did a lot of the running, and I did all the 10Ks. Every weekend they had something, particularly the Crescent City Classic, which was a big one here. And I remember competing, trying to get down to 35 for those races. And I remember going to even Atlanta, which is not like mountains, but the mountains are about an hour away, but it's hilly. And I remember it's like the first time I even experienced hills. I'm like, whoa, mile 5. I'm like, I got to go up a little bit. And that was something. And then the older I got, I'm around the country a little more, and I'm like, oh my God, it's easy to run in New Orleans because everything's so flat. Biking in New Orleans flat. You had to edge some time off your times, doing some stuff here, huh?
Yeah, well, I actually try to avoid distance running as much as possible. So outside of the track, I definitely try to avoid running long distance, so I haven't been edging stuff off my time.
That's true.
In road running here, but as far as my actual races, they definitely got my times down.
Well, I want to talk about those, and I'm going to get to both the difference between the pentathlon and the heptathlon, but first of all, I got to talk about Mardi Gras and things like that. New Orleans is a little different animal. I remember when you grow up here and you move somewhere else. When my first place was D.C. working on Capitol Hill, I didn't show up for work on Mardi Gras. I just thought everybody in the country, everybody in the world got off of that. And they're like, dude, where are you? And I said, wait, it's Mardi Gras. They're like, that's only in Louisiana. So we get a whole week off. So I said, I was just going to take the day. Is that cool? So what was it like for you coming in experiencing the craziness of Mardi Gras. I think we even have some pictures of you enjoying it.
Oh, I hope not.
Not too much. I only took the fun ones. Like here, just some. I think you're in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Come on.
It was great. My first year here, I feel like I got a nice segue into Mardi Gras, but my first year here, we just had Yardi Gras because we were just coming out of COVID.
Oh, that's right.
So it was a little bit of a letdown, yep. But this year was honestly the most full Mardi Gras experience. Unfortunately, we do have indoor conference a week after Mardi Gras,
so you can't really get after it.
Yeah, you have to limit it a little bit, but Mardi Gras is just one of the reasons I love New Orleans. It's just always something happening, and I feel like it extends way into the summer with, like, in August we have like Midsummer Mardi Gras, White Linen Night, and Red Dress Run. Like, it just keeps on going. I love a city where there's always something happening.
You know, and right in the middle of your season, though, it's like when festival season starts.
Yeah.
Because when Mardi Gras and Lent end, it's like every week. I mean, and unfortunately, you're probably on the road doing events, but there's French Quarter Fest, you know, Jazz Fest, Bayou Boogaloo. There's always something going on, and I don't know where you're going to go after this, but you used to come back. What do you think about the French Quarter? Because I know you went down there a little bit. That's a little bit unique as well.
It is. It's such an experience. I love the daytime French Quarter. It was definitely one of those things where I went the first couple of times, and I haven't really been back. I don't really go back too often, but when I do, it's always such a good time. Once again, something lively or something's always happening.
Yeah, daytime French Quarter these days, much better than nighttime. In my day, nighttime was just as safe as daytime, but that's a little bit different now, so you got to watch yourself down there. Any other unique things about Louisiana or New Orleans that you didn't see other places that you've lived or traveled to?
The food.
You like the food?
Yeah, I had crawfish for the first time. Like, honestly, kind of sad. I was living here a year before I had crawfish for the first time.
It took a year?
Yeah.
But you like it now?
It's so good. It's so good.
See, that's the thing. People that try it finally, they like it. I mean, sometimes it doesn't. Now that we grew up on it, like, you know, Jello shots. We have those at like 2 years old. But the fact is, I'm kidding about the Jello shot part. But I grew up with it. But I can see now if somebody's never had it and you got to pick it and you see those eyes staring at you. But once you pick it open, it's pretty darn good, huh?
It is. I mean, I'm from Hawaii. We're big on spam there. Everyone thinks that's absolutely disgusting. So it translates over. I just have to have faith and try other people's food.
Oh, spam is actually good?
So good.
Do you cook it or do you just eat it everything?
Oh, I cook it. They sell it at McDonald's in Hawaii.
Because I think eating
it's great.
it might be, I mean, cooking it right would seem like it, but do people just eat it out of the can?
I can't say I haven't had it raw before, but I tend to cook it.
Oh, is that okay? I thought, okay, good, because I can see cooking it, but so raw, it's raw. I thought people just sometimes took it out and ate it.
Well, you can.
Okay.
Like it's not like deadly. Like you totally can.
It's not lethal. All right.
Yeah.
Now let's get you as an athlete because you've done some extraordinary things. I mean, I talked to you. I remember when I had Adrian, your head coach, for the last 2 years on, and he had told me how much you dramatically improved. But I mean, when I'm looking at some numbers now, you're one of those Tulane All-American pictures. I have one like that, taken from underneath, and it's pretty impressive. Yours is the last one put on there, and you've done some great things. Talk about what that means to you.
Yeah, well, I came in here, honestly, I think Tulane really took a chance on me coming in here, and I feel like I always had this expectation to do well at conference, but I never had expected to be able to do this well, to make it to nationals, to become an All-American. So it's been such an honor, and just the whole journey and seeing what I'm capable of. And I wasn't even supposed to take a 6th year, and I at the last minute decided to, and just seeing what I was able to do in that time has just been so shocking, and it's just been a great experience.
That's a great thing I wanted to bring on, because you went from the 5th, you could have left, you went and got your first master's degree. Then you got another master. You have 2 master's degrees from Tulane?
Yes, yeah.
First of all, congratulations, huge on that. So you have 3 degrees, remarkable. But the first year was your 5th year, right? That was your first year here. And then, or your first
4th
full year. Okay.
Yes.
You had a red shirt, then you had 2. Talk about the difference of your numbers in that last year to what you did this year.
Yeah, so I would say, I'll start with the heptathlon because that's my biggest event.
Yeah.
I came into this year with a PR of 5,100.
Explain that to people and explain what heptathlon means as far as the events that you have to do. It's like the mini version of the decathlon, right? I guess 3 less events?
Yeah, exactly. So it's over 2 days, and each event is scored based on what you do in the event. So each time or height is is linked to a different point total. And so I do the 100 hurdles, high jump, shot put, the 200. That's on day 1. Then day 2 we come back for long jump, javelin, and the 800. And then all of those point totals from those 2 days are added up to give a complete score, which my PR in the heptathlon is 58.02.
Look at that, the high jump. I mean, it's remarkable. I mean, some people specialize in one thing, right? And that's what they do. And to be able to be really good in so many things, there you are at the shot put, you do the triple jump. I mean, how do you practice all that?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a master of none. So you have to limit, as much as it would be great to have 5 days a week where I just practiced high jump and I could get really good at high jump, you have to realize that there's an opportunity cost there and you're sacrificing practice for other events. So you have to honestly limit your practice in some events so you still have energy and just capabilities left in these other events. So we average about 2 events a day that we practice. And so we actually just go 5 days a week with that. And then another thing is there's just so much recovery. You're using every part of your body, so you have to be so conscious and intentional of just the recovery process in it.
What is the one that you know when you go into an event that, hey, okay, this is my event, I need to make up some points here, this is where I'm the best at? What are those couple, and then maybe what are the couple, like, you know, a triathlete, he might be a great bike cyclist, but he's not great in the pool or out in the water, you know.
Yeah.
What's your Achilles heel, and more importantly, what's the ones you know you're great at?
Definitely. So the 200 is by far my best event. I think just in this year, I've almost PR'd by a whole second in that event. So I've just gained so many more points. By far, fastest event for me. Right up there next to it is going to be the 100 hurdles. I'm a runner, so it's all the running events. And unfortunately, the 800 has also become one of my stronger events. It's also the most painful event.
It's grueling, yeah.
It's tough sometimes going into that event
because you
just
like
knowing
speed.
you can make up points. Yes.
Yes. So, okay, is there an order they always do these events? Is it always the same order?
It's always the same order.
Go ahead, go roll through that. What is that?
Yeah, so it's the 1 hurdles, high jump, shot put, 200. That's day 1. So you always end with like kind of a harder running event. Then you're going to come back, long jump, javelin, and 800. So it always ends on the 800. And a lot of times points come down to you just beating a girl in that foot race.
Wow. Wow. That you're just giving it everything you got.
Yeah.
And you know where you stand, like how much ground you have to catch up to.
Yep.
That's interesting. And
you also know what every other girl runs in that race, so you know where you should be. And so I know you showed a picture earlier where I'm smiling, and I'm actually at the start of the 800 line, and I definitely didn't feel like smiling right there.
You were just fake smiling.
Yeah.
All right, just hey, okay, how'd you do in that race? You remember?
Honestly, pretty good. I can't say I've had an 800 race where I do horrible, but I just feel so. It's just the nerves and knowing that you're gonna hurt no matter what you do. That this race is going to hurt.
I love seeing the shots of you on the victory stand, you know, or whatever place you are, because you're competing against so many people around the country. I mean, I know you kick butt in the American Athletic Conference. I saw you up there but then then there you are. That might be nationals there.
Yeah, it's indoor nationals.
Indoor nationals. So that's the pentathlon. Okay, I'm learning pentathlon inside, and there you are at the conference. I mean, it was just nice. I mean, we even got some actions in the middle of waving and being happy and putting it on. How about that? I went through video to get that. Stopped and started. So the fact is, I mean, you've got a lot of honors and accolades. That's got to feel good this year, huh?
It definitely does. And once again, not what I expected coming into this year, and I couldn't have asked for a better year.
Also, what's next for you? What's Kristen? I mean, what do you do next? And do you want to go professional? How does this work?
That's a great question. I think that's something I'm definitely trying to iron out right now. It's a taxing sport, and I'm just getting healthy right now, coming through some injuries. But I think that's something that I'm definitely going to be entertaining in the future, and we're just going to go from there.
I would love to see it. Now, you have the 2 master's degrees. I mean, if you don't continue in sports, what do you think you might want to do?
I think that's also a great question. I definitely want to stay around the sports realm, but I haven't quite ironed out exactly where that's going to lead me yet.
What do you think, Honolulu? Are you back home? Or are you going to maybe explore other places?
I think I want to keep exploring the mainland. I feel like there's a lot here. There's a lot more to see.
There is. I mean, we have a great country, and I know sometimes people get pigeonholed in the South, and I imagine Hawaii is even more so because it's You're way away from everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, get out there. We give gifts here, and I know you live close to this restaurant. Shay's de la Shay's on Maple Street.
Oh,
We gave you a couple
yes.
here, so you can add them up and use them at the same time. And that is right there. I have Starbucks. You know where it is, right?
Yes.
And there's
Thank
also
you
de la
so
Shay's on
much.
St. Charles. And this is Task Performance. It's a guy that just passed away, unfortunately, but he is a Tulane grad. He played basketball back in the
Wow.
60s.
Thank you so much.
And it's phenomenal. And we signed the helmet. Hey, doesn't matter. You don't have to play football here. You are a Tulane athlete and a very good one. You deserve to be on this as much or more than any of these other folks. I'm honored to have you. I see some spots down here. It's getting kind of full, but give us that Kristen O'Hanley where I can
Thank
read it.
you.
Some people just give me a scribble, and I'm like trying to figure out, a year later, who is this? Yeah. So it's been my honor. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you so much for having me.
And thank you, Adrian Myers, the head coach for Tulane, for recommending me her. And I just was watching his Twitter feed. He was congratulating her nonstop about the great career. And I said, before she leaves town, I want to get her on this show. So I thank you. And congrats for all your accolades, and mostly those degrees.
Thank you so much.
Most of us barely have one, and then you're sitting here with 3 home, and 2 from Tulane. Impressive. Hey, I want to thank everybody, but we're not done with Frank Duffy. That's right. Frank he had a breather. He got some water. He was talking so fast, we had to slow him down. He's been on the road for 16 days. We're going to get him back right before he heads back to Atlanta. Remember, he lives halftime in Atlanta, halftime in New Orleans, but he's going back to Atlanta in that big old RV. He's got his car he's in doing the show in before he takes off. But we'll have him back right here, talk about all those games that LSU won 11 of them to get this championship. We're going to get into all that when we come back on Primetime Sports. Got us up at the end of the show, so Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. I really love that segment with Kristen, and I wish her the best of luck the rest of her career. hey, welcome back, Frank Duffy. He's our super fan. Remember back in 2019, he went to all 15 the national championship year with Joe Burrow in base football, and he went to all 15 of those games. And then that same year, the Saints went 13-3. We remember that year. It was like the year, I think that was after the no-call year, but they still got beat in the playoffs in overtime against the Vikings. He went to almost all of those as well. He's got that big RV. He can go anywhere. And you go Saturday, then Sunday, that's trips right there, man. But he went back to Omaha, and he said this, as you heard earlier in the show, this was one of the craziest events he's ever had, because it's not just one game. It's 8 games over literally 14 days. I think he got there on a Monday. Now it's Tuesday the following week. Now you count each day. That's 16 days he's been there. But the game started, I think, 11 days ago. So, yeah, he's been going, and he went to all 8 of the LSU games in Omaha, where they won 6 of them, but they also won 5 before. Remember we said we were going to have Mason Katz, one of the LSU legends in the early mid-2010, 12, 13 era, 14, remember around there? Well, his dad, Billy Katz, was a legend. He played baseball at LSU and then at Tulane. And Frank, you played with Billy back at the Carrollton Boosters days, didn't you?
Absolutely, man. Billy was a heck of a shortstop, and I was a catcher on that team. Perrin Rome, Jay Hernandez.
Oh, you're giving shout-outs all across the board to all your friends. All right, I got you. I know Perrin Rome well. Billy was a great left-hand hitter. Hey, let's talk about this LSU run, though, because it all started back. How long ago does that Tulane game feel? I had Dylan Carmouche and head coach Jay Ullman on here. I feel like that was a month ago, and that was probably 3 weeks ago, right? So, yeah, that was after they had played LSU. That was the first NCAA tournament game that LSU played back in the regional.
That's right. Well, that was the first regional game, right?
Right.
And everybody was talking about was that Friday afternoon game. In fact, all the guys at the Bienville Club were hanging out there watching. We had Tulane and LSU at the club watching it. So, yeah, I mean, baseball, baseball here in Louisiana is just phenomenal. Both LSU, Tulane, UNO, Southeastern, USL, great teams. And the passion that we have for baseball goes all the way back to the Pelicans in the 50s. So to have LSU on another run like this, to get back to our birthright, which is Omaha, but to have
Tulane's been there twice and UNO once.
Yeah, with this team of cast of characters, I mean, look, it might go down as one of the most beloved LSU teams, and not just baseball. I'm talking about one of the most beloved teams of any sport. And to watch them and to see them go through the super regional against Kentucky, which most most people don't realize Kentucky was playing really, really good baseball.
Really good, right.
Dispatched them in the 2 games, and then when we were able to come in, it was so pivotal to beat Tennessee in that first game. I mean, and by the way, that was the most jawing that went on, even with the Florida fans. I mean, we give it to them, they give it to us. But the Tennessee game, there was more jawing. I heard the word Clampets and Hillbillies and Jethro and Chad more in the stands in 5 minutes than I did watching it all those years when I was a kid. No, we were blasting them, they were blasting us. But to get out of that game and beat Vitello's group with their deep pitching staff, that was the one thing that I was concerned about and having to play them again, which we wound up having to, with how deep they were at pitching. And their strength was really our weakness until we started getting Ackenhausen coming in and Hurd and all the guys that came in. They were able to kind of make fans, and I'm sure Jay Johnson too, calm down a bit because we were able to come in and pitch as well as we did. But we didn't know that at that Tennessee game. And then the loss to Wake Forest, and a game that we should have won, we lost a 1-run game. But to come back in the losers bracket and go through Tennessee, Wake, and Wake again, you were saying what was the best feeling? It was that Friday just to take a breath, just not to be
you had your day off. You had 1 day off finally.
I mean, look at the sun I've gotten. I mean, my ring finger. Look at the ring thing on it. I mean, that's what we've been out in the sun constantly. So the players, the fans, the families, it was a slog that actually paid off last night in one of the most exhilarating celebrations I've ever had as a Tiger fan.
I mean, think about that, though. If they had lost, yeah, it'd be great. It's a great trip and great season, but there's not the payoff at the end, right? I mean, I always drill in, hey, man, there's only one champion. I mean, that doesn't mean you didn't have a great year, but the fact is it just is so exhilarating when it did happen. And let's go through this again.
Think about 2011 LSU football.
Oh, my gosh. Great example.
Great team we ever had.
Until 19, that's the best team they ever had. The best team. Yeah. They demoralized 8 teams that were ranked in the top 10 and beat them by an average of 30 points. That team was better than anybody. Alabama was just prepared because you already beat Alabama once, but that team was better than 03, the champions, better than the 07 champions, and really they could play with the 19 champions. They were that good, but that's a great point. It didn't have the payoff at the end, even though that was just as good. But as far as this tournament, I want to take people back because they beat 5 teams, right? I think it's 5, and they beat one of them once. No, they beat 6 teams. Maybe 5. Well, I'll figure this out now. They beat Tulane once. They beat Oregon State twice. They beat Kentucky twice. They beat Tennessee twice. They beat Wake twice, and they beat Florida twice. So that's 6 teams. So that's it. That's your 11 wins. 5 teams you beat twice, and then Tulane once. And then you had a couple losses in there to teams that you beat twice. So you won 2 out of 3 against the other 2 best teams in the country. Wake Forest, which we mentioned besides LSU, was the only team number 1 all year. LSU had it for 12 weeks. They had it for 6. But LSU will end up number 1. But Florida, we saw how good they were, except for last night. That is a great team as well. They could have easily been national championships. So this was as good as it gets, not just for LSU and the LSU athletic program, but for the College World Series. They had so many 1-run games. And the crazy thing about this, Frank, and I want you to comment because you were there all those games, no team. I mean, we remember Rosenblatt. I went in a lot in the 90s. I was there. That was long ball. Man, LSU, they had 188 home runs that year. That was crazy. Even this great hitting team had 50 less. But the fact is that those scores were huge. No game in the entire World Series, none of them had more than 6 runs scored by one team in the entire World Series until Sunday. And that's when you got 24 by Florida and 18 by LSU last night. How'd that happen?
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. And the excitement of those games. I mean, they were 1-run games, and it was teams coming from behind. I mean, look, Florida was lucky they didn't lose their first game against Virginia. Virginia had them on the road. It took 2 bombs in the 9th inning for them to beat Virginia. And look, I went to games that LSU wasn't in. I wanted to just go see great baseball because, Scott, I can't remember a College World Series that had this many talented teams, but that teams that were playing good baseball. I mean, they were all on a roll, probably with the exception of Virginia, who underwhelmed a little bit. But Oral Roberts played great. Stanford had their moment. Watching Tennessee and Stanford was a really
that was crazy. I watched that one, yeah.
That was great. So it was just, you had all these teams were all on a trajectory going up, meeting each other, and being evenly matched. And the one-run games is why you saw that. That propensity for it to be close, for the propensity for it to have incredible pitching, which I love. I'm a defensive baseball guy. I mean, I like bombs going out too, but I also like a 1-0 well-pitched Greg Maddux type game, and to have the game against Wake where you had two pitchers having that that type of a performance. I mean, you know as well as I do, Scott. We love sports. It is the greatest unscripted drama that there is. And you saw it. You had everything in this College World Series. Ethos, pathos, tragedy, comedy, the whole nine. Had it all. A 3-week magical run for the Tigers. Yes, culminated in a championship, but all the baseball through that. The real winners was the fans of baseball and college baseball itself. It's never been healthier. It's never been more popular. I just saw they put in Placeman Park. They're putting a new facility over in Auburn. Baseball is now, I won't say it's on par with football, but it's absolutely taken over, in my opinion, even basketball in the popularity in this state. I don't see it. I don't see the clock turning back at all. I think the interest in college baseball is only going to get greater and greater over the years.
Well, let me say this. LSU's on a roll right now. We know what Kim Mulkey did, national champions back a couple months back. I mean, LSU football they were supposed to have a rebuilding year, and they got to the SEC championship game. We know what happened in gymnastics. I'm now a huge gymnastics fan. I love it. And those girls got all the way to the Final Four. Softball did great. It just seems like everything is looking up for LSU athletics, and Scott Woodward's hires in the last couple of years.
It's a great time to be a Tiger, Scott.
It's a great time to be a Green Wave fan, too. Let me say this about Tulane. You and I you were the ball boy on the football team in the 70s. Late 70s, I was a bat boy on the baseball team, and we both ended up going to LSU, and we both loved them equally. That's the thing. I don't think you can used to be you had to pick one or the other back in the old days. That's when we were playing each other in every sport all the time. But now it's a little more accepted. But I always like both teams. I've always wanted to see both teams do great. And UNO as well. UNO as well.
Tulane's always going to be in my heart. When I was a kid growing up, literally right down the street from Tulane University, from old Tulane Stadium, riding our bikes there, going up and down the ramps, just playing around, having a blast, and then going into the games. I remember going in and, as a ball boy, working the freshman game on a Friday night in old Tulane Stadium. There was 35,000 people there watching LSU come in and play the freshman game. No, I love Tulane. I love what they're doing. Willie Fritz is a phenomenal coach. I'm so glad that they locked him up. What they did out in the Rose Bowl, I was cheering as loud as I've ever cheered. I was cheering from that day. And I love the fact that they're also good in baseball. And you and I went with our good buddy Billy Shell and Lester and Guy Curry and David Quinn went to the Tulane basketball game one night. Had a blast. So
I got all sports. Yeah, I love them all. Yeah.
Yep.
And now I'm a track fan, too, as well. That track team has got some things going on. I've never seen a team go from where they were to where they are now so fast. So I'm happy for all of them. And I want to thank you, Frank, man. I know you've got that death march going on. You've been there 16 days. Get back to Atlanta healthy, and I look forward next time I see you in New Orleans down there. We'll have a little Sazerac down there at the Roosevelt Hotel. All right?
You got it, brother.
All right. There he is. I appreciate it. I'm not a big Zoom guy, but when you get the guy that's in Omaha, that has as much as passion as he does and gives you the flavor of the entire 2 weeks, I had to have him. So I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Kristen O'Hanley. Appreciate her coming on the show. It's summertime. I hope you guys enjoy the 4th of July, but I mostly want to thank my crew, too, man. These guys in the middle of the hot months are getting it done. All of them in the back. Man, Will Hill, appreciate you so much. And then you got Logan and Alex and all the 3 interns. Let me see if I can remember them all. Let's see here. We got Jonathan and, of course, Sean and Danielle. I think that's right. All right. Thank you all. We'll see you next week on Primetime Sports. Have a happy 4th of July weekend. Got some energy working here.